bill to the House.
Te manga te whare.
Here we go.
I call Anahila Kanongata'a-Suisuiki malo.
Tēnā koutou te manga o te whare. It is my absolute privilege. It's the first time I've spoken in front of you to share this moment of a page in my life. 10 minutes, all of it, Matt King. Page in my life and your life and all of New Zealanders. So I congratulate you in your post as te manga o te whare. So, like I said, it is a privilege to speak on the third reading of the Electronic Interactions Reform Bill. And I would like to extend my thanks to the Government Administration Committee for their careful consideration, and in particular to the Minister, the Honourable Tracy Martin, for her leadership in responding to all our questions from Whole of House Committee on the second reading. I want to further extend my acknowledgement to the 8 submitters who had made their submissions and who had voiced their opinions as citizens of our nation, especially to the 2 oral submitters that attended the select committee. I understand that the main aim of the bill is to amend 17 acts to enable digital interactions between individuals, businesses and government agencies. I'm going to use the service of notice to demonstrate what it looks like in all the acts that I've come across. So I'll start with, I'll begin the service of notices providing that a document or information was emailed, that it is sufficient to prove that the document of information was properly addressed and sent to the email address that is used by the person. Mr. Speaker, I want to quickly go to this section when it talks about service of notice. I'll just go to part 3 of giving evidence by electronic means, even though in other acts, over 5 of the acts that it actually refers to that. And I bring this as a personal insight into my other life when I used to be a statutory social worker, and it was for me to serve notices on certain people, and I recall some of those experiences with fond memories of trying to stop dogs attacking me and trying to speak in other languages to the dog. But anyway, I want to explain the difference, that there is no difference between an email address or a usual physical address. So if Section 102 Service notice as amended of the Commerce Act 1986, it says, a notice or any document required or authorised to be served, given to a person for purposes of this Act may be served or given, A, delivering it to the person, yep, that's great, or B, leaving it at the person's usual or last known place of residence. I see that there is no difference between emailing it to a person's last usual email. So there is no difference electronically sending it to an email box or physically delivering it to a physical mail box, which we all know now the postal services are slowly becoming lesser used by citizens of this country. Post offices are closing everywhere in New Zealand, and we are having to look at other means on how we can utilise the services of the post office. But I want to reply to the member across the bench where she talks about that this was started off by the now opposition party, that they had ran out of gas. You know, it might have been their idea, but unfortunately, they ran out of gas and didn't score the try. So I am absolutely honoured to score that try, to be part of the team that actually scores the try and enabling this bill to become law in this country. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about, and I want to bring my personal experience in particular to the amendments to the Electronic Identity Verification Act of 2012. And I just wish the banks are listening. I wish the banks are listening. As the Treasurer for 2 community organised incorporated society, I just wish the bank, if you're listening, banks, please take note. So with the bank accounts, if we're changing signatories, We have to, we all live in different parts of the country. Some of us live in the South Island, some of us live in South Auckland, and some of us live in the middle here in Wellington. So what we have to do in terms of changing signatories, and I know this because in this new post that I now am privileged to hold, I have to change the signatories of all the other signatories of the two societies that I'm part of, and we all have to attend the bank at the same time. We all have to attend the bank at the same time. And I just wish in terms of amendments to the Electronic Identity Verification Act 2012, and I'll go to that page if you're reading Matt King, it's on page 13, and I'll go to that page, and it talks about using a photograph. Like we've had previous members that talk about taking a selfie for their passport. If we could only have copies of office holders, their photographs are kept by the bank, so when we do change signatories, I don't need to travel to, and other members of the society, to travel to different parts of the country. If we live in Auckland, to contribute to changing our identity with banks. But if we live in Auckland, this would not only contribute to making life easier for New Zealand, but it will go some way to reducing the traffic congestion in Auckland. It will, and it will reduce the traffic congestion in Auckland. And not only that, reducing the traffic congestion in Auckland, let me get to that, I'm almost getting there. This bill would make things a lot easier for New Zealand. And Mr. Speaker, the reason why I'm offering insights, because I am an ordinary Aucklander. I am ordinary New Zealander who holds, oh, hang on a minute, I'm a woman, so I'll talk about all the other roles that I hold. I am a person who has a full-time job and members of several community groups that I attend. So in terms of electronic emailing to addresses, and I did say when I started the speech that I will demonstrate how the 17X, how this affects 17X. So where it say, if my question posed to me by my 12-year-old, she's currently taking a keen interest in listening to a debate in the House. She says, Mum, why is it that everybody gets up and talks about the same thing all the time? Maybe differently, but I've noticed that they talk about the same thing all the time. And I said to her, look, if you listen, if you're still up, you should be sleeping, Malu. But anyway, if you're up, and hopefully you're viewing this recorded tomorrow, not tonight, but if you're still up, what it means is that if there are 17 acts, let's say I talked about the service notices, if there are 17 acts, then there are 17 parts of the same service notice that would need to be amended on all those 17 acts. Whether it is the, let me get to that page, whether it is the Conservation Law, whether it is the Fair Trading Act, that's what it means, it affects 17. And in terms of services notice, what it means is that it has to be changed in all those other acts. And if you understand what I'm trying, or if the member across the bench understands what that means that 17 different acts needs to be changed to do in order for this to happen. I also want to share in terms of giving evidence by electronic means. In my other life as, again, a government social worker, I used to organise meetings, and sometimes organising what we call a family group conference requires certain members of the whānau, or if the young person who is probably, if they are, let's say in youth justice, if a family group conference requires a young person to be present, and sometimes is unable to travel because there are no flights to Tauranga at that certain time. What we used to do, and I know it's still current practice, is that we would involve the young person in a family group conference by electronically having that person, or members of people that could attend the family group conference, be physically but actually electronically. So it does work. So what I want to summarise is that technology is here to make our life easier. It is here to make the lives of ordinary New Zealanders easier. And if it means that we electronically contribute to making it easier for government workers in terms of sending paperwork, we're all about planting those trees. We're all about that. And physically paper contributes to trees being cut down. But we are in this government. I just want to acknowledge that we've gotten now the ball and we're going to score that try. And 1 billion trees. And I want to commend this common sense approach, commend this bill to the House. Malo.
I call Matt King.